Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. And today we'll be discussing the theory related to the chapter ecosystem. This is the part 3 of the lecture and today we'll be discussing the NCERT section 12.5. This is the disclaimer. So let's talk about today's objectives. So objectives of today's session is to understand different type of ecological pyramids. Okay, so there are 3 kinds of ecological pyramids: pyramid of number, biomass, and energy. We will understand these 3 types of ecological pyramids. We'll also understand why pyramids are always upright in case of energy. But these pyramids can be inverted in the case of numbers and biomass. So we will understand the reason behind this. We'll also understand and we'll also calculate and interpret the efficiency of energy transfer between different trophic levels. Okay, which is 10% law, which says that only 10% of the energy is transferred to the next trophic level. We'll also compare and contrast pyramids across different ecosystems. Within this, we'll be talking about the 3 ecosystem: grassland, pond, and forest ecosystem. We'll also analyze the limitations and advantages of each type of ecological pyramid in representing ecosystem structure. So let's begin with today's session. So we'll be talking of ecological pyramids today, which is NCERT section 12.5. Then we will summarize the entire session. We'll discuss some NCERT-based questions related to these topics. We'll also discuss some keynotes that will help you memorize these topics, and in the end, there'll be some interesting questions that will enhance your critical thinking ability. Let's start by discussing the shape of the ecological pyramid. Now, the base of the ecological pyramid is broad. So the wide, broad base of the pyramid represents the largest group of organisms in an ecosystem. This is because there is a huge amount of energy available at the first step, means at the first trophic level. As an example, you can think that in a forest, there are countless blades of grass, many different kinds of shrubs, and a wide variety of trees. All of these plants collectively form the broad base of the pyramid because they are the most numerous and hold most energy. As you move up from the base to the narrow top of the pyramid, the number of organisms and the amount of energy decreases significantly. So as we move upwards towards the apex, the amount of energy decreases because energy is being lost at each step. Only 10% of the energy is transferred to the next trophic level. Okay. For example, continuing with the forest example, there are far fewer deers to eat all the grasses and the leaves. And there are even fewer wolves or mountain lions to hunt the deer. So the pyramid gets smaller and smaller as you go up because there's less energy to support a large population. Okay, so why it is narrowing down, why it is, you can say, the ecological pyramid narrows toward the apex because the amount of energy is decreasing at each step and not much energy is left to support a large population. Now, ecological pyramid is actually a graphical way to show the relationship between different organisms at each trophic level in an ecosystem. Now, each level represents a step in the food chain from producers at the bottom to top consumers at the apex. Now, the base always represents the producers or the first trophic level represented by T1. The producers, they make their own food through photosynthesis. Now the pointed top or the apex is for the top level consumers who eat other animals and have no predators of their own. For example, think about in a grassland ecosystem. The base of the pyramid is huge. Number of the grass present in that grass ecosystem. So this grass represents the producers, which is the first trophic level. The next level is the grasshoppers, which occupy the second trophic level. These are the primary consumers that eat the grass. Then come the frogs, which are the secondary consumers. They are occupying the third trophic level. And these frogs, they eat the grasshopper. Finally, at the top is the small number of snakes, which are the tertiary consumers that eat the frog. Now, the small number of snakes at the apex is a perfect example of why the pyramid narrows at the top. Here in this image, you can see different trophic levels have been shown to you. Now you can see the first trophic level, it is occupied by the green plants. The green plants are the producers. Okay, and the base of the this pyramid, it is quite broad. And this pyramid is narrowing towards the apex. Okay, now the energy is being lost at each trophic level. Here, and you can see here the number of plants or the biomass of plants. It is huge as compared to the herbivores, and the number of carnivores are less as compared to herbivores. Then comes the secondary carnivores and the top predators, which are the vultures and eagles, as well as the tigers. Their number is very less because not enough energy is left to support this large number of population at the top trophic level. Okay, so the ecological pyramid narrows down. Okay, then you can see here decomposers also play a very vital role in the ecosystem. All these organic matter which is being produced, this is decomposed by the organic matter, and they also help in nutrient cycling. Let's talk about the types of the pyramids. So first one is pyramid of number. Okay. So this pyramid of number shows the number of individual organisms at each level of a food chain. Next one is pyramid of biomass. So this pyramid shows the total mass or weight of living organism at each level. It gives a more accurate picture than the number pyramid because it accounts for the size of the organism. Finally, we have the pyramid of energy. So this pyramid shows the flow of energy from one trophic level to the next. Okay, let's talk about some of the calculation related to the trophic levels. Now, it is very important to include all the organism at each trophic level. So whenever you are talking about pyramid of number, biomass of energy, then you should include all the organism at each trophic level. This means you have to count every single living thing in the trophic level and not just the ones that are easy to find. For example, in a grassland ecosystem, you cannot just count the rabbits as the only primary consumers. You also need to count every single mouse, grasshopper, and other plant-eating insects to get the true picture of that trophic level. If you miss any of them, your calculations for the energy and biomass in that level will be wrong. Okay, as well as in the calculation for energy, biomass, and number at that level will be wrong. Now, it cannot be based on just a few individuals. This we have discussed. So this means that you cannot generalize for an entire ecosystem based on a small sample. You must gather information from a large representative sample to understand the whole population. So imagine you are studying an ocean ecosystem. You cannot just catch 2 fish and decide their size represents all fish. Instead, you must measure many individuals to get an accurate average size for that population and see how much biomass they contribute to the trophic level. Now, next one is must be comprehensive for accurate results. It means your study needs to be thorough, accounting for all the complex relationship in the food web, not just a simple straight food chain. Okay, so this includes organisms that eat from more than one trophic level, like omnivores. So omnivores, they feed on both plant-based product and the animals. So they eat from more than one trophic level, or they eat the living things from more than one trophic level. Okay, for example, sparrow is a primary consumer when it eats the seeds, but it is also a secondary consumer when it eats the insects. Okay, again, this is the trophic level you can see here. At each trophic level, you have to include all the organisms. Here, so if you're talking about the producers, you should include all the plants here. Okay, the grasses, the shrubs, the trees, all should be included. Similarly for the other trophic levels as well. Okay, the study should be very comprehensive. Okay, short, it should not be based on just few individuals. Now let's talk about the organism position in the trophic levels. Now, one organism can actually occupy more than one trophic level. For example, a bear can eat berries as a primary consumer, but also eat fish as a secondary or even tertiary consumer. This flexibility helps organisms survive in changing environments. Now let's focus on the idea that trophic level is a functional role, not something tied to a specific species. Okay. So this means each organism play a definite role at each trophic level. Clear? And it is not related to the identity of a particular species. So trophic level is functional. Each organism, each species is playing its role at that trophic level. Okay. Each species has a particular role at that trophic level. Now, same species can be at different levels simultaneously. It's important to realize that even individuals of the same species can be at different trophic levels at the same time. For example, some humans might eat only plants, means they are vegetarian, acting as primary consumers, while other eats both plants and animals, so they are omnivores. Yeah. So you can see the same species can be at different levels simultaneously. Okay, means they can be primary consumers also, and they can be secondary consumers or tertiary consumers as well. Let's have a look at the example of multiple trophic levels. Okay, let's take an example of sparrow. So sparrow are common birds you might see in your backyard or local park. Now, when a sparrow eats the seed, fruits or peas, it acts as a primary consumer. This means it's eating plants directly, just like how we eat fruits and vegetables. Now, primary consumers are the first step above the plants in the food chain, means they occupy the second trophic level. First trophic level is occupied by the plants, which are the producers. Now, but sparrows don't just eat plant product. When they eat insects or worms, they become secondary consumers. Here, so we can say that trophic level represent the different roles organisms play in the flow of energy through an ecosystem. So trophic levels are functional. Okay, what do you mean by trophic level represent functional positions? Means trophic level represents the different roles the organism play in the flow of the energy through an ecosystem. So there is the flow of energy from one organism to another organism. Okay, from the producers to the primary consumer, from primary consumer to the secondary consumer, and so on. Now, species aren't fixed to one level. Okay, just like the sparrow, many animals can operate at different levels at the same time. Clear? So, and a species can be placed at primary consumer, or it can be placed at the different trophic level. Okay, such as secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, depending on its diet, whether it is herbivore or whether it is omnivore. Usually omnivores, they occupy multiple trophic level. So that's why we are saying species aren't fixed at one level. Okay, means species are not fixed at one trophic level. They can occupy multiple trophic levels depending on their feeding habit. Now, same organism can operate at different levels simultaneously. So this flexibility helps ecosystem stay balanced and show how interconnected all living things are. Now, there is a question here. Can you work out how many trophic levels human beings function at in a food chain? Okay, now let's have a look at the answer for this question. See, this is a very interesting question. So humans are pretty flexible in the food chain. Humans can be at 3 trophic levels: primary trophic level, secondary and tertiary trophic level. So human can occupy multiple trophic level. So humans, they act as primary consumers when they eat plants. Then humans, they can act as secondary consumers when they eat animals that eat plants. Means if they are eating herbivores, such as chickens, and if they are eating beef. Okay. Next one, humans can also act as tertiary consumers when they eat animals that eat other animals. So whenever the humans, they are consuming a very, you can say, large fish or any top, you can say carnivore, then they can act as tertiary consumers, occupying the 4th trophic level. Now let's talk about the pyramid of number. Okay, so pyramid of number actually represents, what does it represent actually? So it is a total number of individual organisms at each trophic level. Now let's talk about the upright pyramid of number. Now, the number of individual decreases at successive trophic level. That's why you get upright pyramid number. So at the base, you will have, you can say, highest number of individuals. And as you are moving upwards, then the number of individual decreases. That's why you get a upright pyramid. Okay, so at the bottom, there is the largest, you can say, layer, or you can say largest number of individuals. And at the apex, you will have the least number of individuals. Example is grassland ecosystem. Okay, so grassland ecosystem is the upright ecosystem. Okay, so if we talk about the pyramid of number, in the case of grassland ecosystem, it will be upright. Here, now in grassland ecosystem, the first trophic level, or you can say the base of the pyramid, is made up of plant like grass. Now you can see these are countless individual blade of the grass, which is why this level is so wide. So the number of grass is very high. These grasses, they capture the sun's energy to make food for the whole ecosystem. Then the second trophic level is occupied by the primary consumers, okay, such as grasshopper. Now you can see the number of grasshopper are less as compared to grasses. And then you have the third trophic level, which is occupied by the secondary consumers. Now, frogs, they feed on grasshoppers, but there are even fewer frogs as compared to grasses. Clear? So, a single frog needs to eat many grasshoppers to eat enough energy. So, this means there are fewer frogs than grasshopper, making the pyramid narrower. And then at the fourth trophic level, you have the tertiary consumers, which are even less as compared to the frogs. So, there are very few snakes and eagles. So that's why the pyramid of number in the case of grassland will be upright. Here you can see in this image, this is showing a pyramid of number in a grassland ecosystem. So here they have shown you different trophic levels starting from producers. Number of producers is maximum, and then PC is primary consumers. The number of primary consumers are less as compared to producers. Now, number of secondary consumer, this is less as compared to primary consumer, and at the apex, you can see the number of tertiary consumer, they are minimum, okay, as compared to the other trophic levels. So that's why the pyramid is upright. Let's talk about in which case the pyramid of number is inverted. Now, inverted pyramid is a population diagram that is much wider at the top than it is at the bottom, which is exactly opposite of the upright pyramid. So here you can see in inverted pyramid, the top will be the widest one. Okay, so here what happens here in inverted pyramid of number, the number of individual increases at higher trophic levels. So that's why the top trophic level will be the most widest. Example is a tree ecosystem, okay, where parasitic food chain is observed. Now at the first trophic level, there is only one tree. The single tree serves as the producers and the foundation for this particular food chain. Now the second trophic level, which is occupied by the primary consumers. It includes many herbivorous birds living on the tree. Their number is less as you can say their number is more as compared to one single tree. Then at the third trophic level, parasites are present. Okay, so there are even more number of lice and bugs which are present on the birds. So you can see the number is increasing as you are going higher. Now the fourth trophic level is occupied by the hyperparasite. Now their number is even more. Here, so there is a vast number of bacteria and fungi on the parasite. This is bacteria and fungi, they are the hyperparasites. Their number is even more as compared to the parasite. Okay, so in this case, you will get inverted pyramid of the number. Here, most number of individuals are at the fourth trophic level and least number of individuals are at the, you can say, first trophic level, which are the producers. Let's talk about the pyramid of biomass now. So you can see pyramid of biomass actually shows the total mass or weight of living organism at each level of the food chain. Let's talk about upright pyramid of biomass. Now, biomass decreases at successive trophic levels. So in upright pyramid of biomass, the total weight of organisms at the bottom is the largest, while this total weight decreases as you move up each level. Okay, so this is the case for most ecosystem on land because of the way energy is transferred. Clear? Now, so this is the case for most terrestrial ecosystems. So in most of the cases, means in the land ecosystem, in the terrestrial ecosystem, you will get upright pyramid of biomass. So most land-based ecosystem like forest and grassland show upright pyramid of biomass. So this happens because the plants, which are the producers, are able to store a huge amount of energy from the sun. When a consumer eats a producer, much of that energy is lost as heat, so less energy is available for the next trophic level. For example, will be the forest ecosystem. Here you can see in a forest, the base means the first trophic level, which is occupied by the producers. This has the highest biomass. So trees have the highest biomass. Then you can see the second trophic level, which is occupied by the primary consumers. Okay, they have lower biomass as compared to the trees. So trophic level 2, this is occupied by the herbivores such as deer. It has lower biomass as compared to the producers. Then at the third trophic level, you have the secondary consumers, which has even less biomass as compared to the herbivores. So there is very low biomass of the carnivores such as lions. Okay, so biomass of carnivore is less as compared to biomass of the herbivores. And this you can see, this is the upright pyramid of the biomass. So here biomass is measured in dry weight. Here dry weight means it is free of the moisture. And it's measured in kilogram per meter square. Here you can see the biomass is decreasing as you are moving upward. Highest biomass is that of the producers. Lowest is that of the tertiary consumers. Let's talk about a case where the pyramid of biomass is inverted. So in this case, the biomass of producer is smallest, then or it is smaller than the biomass of the consumers. Example is aquatic ecosystem such as pond ecosystem or ocean ecosystem. Here at the first trophic level, which is occupied by the producers. Okay, so in the aquatic ecosystem, the first trophic level or the producers, these are the phytoplankton with a tiny plant-like. Okay, so they can fix, you can say carbon dioxide, they can do photosynthesis, they can produce their own food. So they are the producers, but they have a very low biomass. And then moving on to the next trophic level, here, which are occupied by the zooplanktons. Here, so trophic level 2, which is occupied by the primary consumers. Trophic level 1 was occupied by the producers, which are the phytoplankton. These phytoplankton, they have a very short lifespan and they reproduce very quickly. Clear? But their biomass is very less. Now, the second trophic level occupied by the primary consumers, which are the zooplankton. Zooplankton, they feed on the phytoplankton. So they are tiny animal-like organisms that eat the phytoplankton. So these zooplankton, they often live longer and grow larger. So their total weight at any given moment is actually greater than the phytoplankton they feed on. Now the standing crop of the zooplankton is higher than that of the phytoplankton. Means their biomass is more. The total weight of the zooplankton is greater as compared to the producers. So here you can see you are getting an inverted pyramid of biomass in the case of aquatic ecosystem. In case of terrestrial, you are getting the upright pyramid. In case of aquatic ecosystem, you are getting inverted pyramid of biomass. Okay, here you can see the producers. These are the phytoplankton. They are occupying the first trophic level. Their biomass is the least. Then you go to zooplankton. Zooplankton, their biomass is more as compared to the phytoplankton. And then you have small fishes. Their biomass is even greater than the zooplankton. And last one is the largest fishes. Their biomass is you can say greater than even these small fishes. So you are getting the inverted pyramid of biomass. Let's talk about the pyramid of energy. So pyramid of energy tracks how much total energy is available at each level of a food chain. Here the energy is measured in the units like calories or joules, and this pyramid shows that the base made up of producers has the most energy. Now what is the key feature? The pyramid of energy is always upright. Now what is the reason? Why the pyramid of energy is always upright? So it's because when energy moves from one trophic level to the next, some energy is lost as heat. Okay. So when energy flows from a particular trophic level to the next, some energy is lost as heat at each step. Clear? Now you can see this ecological pyramid of energy. This follows the first and the second law of thermodynamics as well. Now, we were talking about the pyramid of energy. Now, each bar of the energy pyramid indicates the amount of energy present at each trophic level in a given time or annually per unit area. Now, it provides the most accurate picture of the ecosystem functional nature. So, energy pyramid gives the clearest and most reliable view of how an ecosystem works. It shows the complete process of energy transfer and loss, making it the best tool for comparing how different ecosystems function. So here you can see this image showing you ecological pyramid of energy. It is always upright. Why it is upright? Because the energy is being lost during the transfer. Okay, during the transfer of the energy is being lost at each step. Only 10% of the energy is being transferred to the next trophic level. So here you can see producer, they have the maximum energy, which is measured in joules, and then only 10% of energy is transferred to the primary consumers, which is 1000 joule, and then again 10% of energy is being transferred to the secondary consumers, which is 100 joule, and finally there is very less energy left at the, you can say, fourth trophic level, which is occupied by the tertiary consumers. Okay, now beyond this 4 trophic level, another trophic level is not possible because there is not, you can say, enough energy to support a next trophic level. Now let's talk about the limitation of the ecological pyramids. Now, ecological pyramids do not account for the same species belonging to more than one trophic level. For example, some species might eat both plants and other animals, so they fit into multiple levels. So this is not taken into account in ecological pyramids. Now, it assumes a very simple food chain which almost never exists in nature. So in nature, you have the food web here, which is interconnection of the food chains. But ecological pyramid is only considering a very simple food chain. But in reality, nature is made up of food webs. Organisms often have several food sources and predators, making the relationship much more tangled. Now, another key limitation is that decomposers like fungi and bacteria are usually left out of these pyramids. So these, you can say, decomposers, they play a very vital role in breaking down the dead material and recycling nutrients. So they are never considered in the ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramid illustrate the relationship between organisms at different trophic levels, showing the number of individuals, total biomass, or the flow of energy. Now, most pyramids are upright with the producers at the base and top consumers at the apex. But there are certain limitations that we have already discussed. So, upright pyramid is usually common, especially for the energy. But there can be certain cases where the pyramid of number and pyramid of biomass can be inverted. Now, finally, remember that single organism can occupy multiple trophic levels. For instance, sparrow eat both seeds. Whenever it eats seed, it acts as the primary consumer. And if the sparrow is eating insects, then it is acting as a secondary consumer. So this flexibility is common in nature and adds to the complexity of real ecosystem. Now let's summarize this entire session. So we have discussed that in many aquatic ecosystems, the pyramid of biomass is inverted. meaning that the total weight of the organism at the bottom is less than at the levels above it. We have also discussed that an energy pyramid is never inverted. It always has a wide base and a narrow top because so much energy is lost at each step. The total amount of energy available to the next level is always less than the level before it. We also talk about the unidirectional flow of energy. So energy moves in only one direction, from the sun to the producers and then from producers to the consumers. Now we have also discussed the limitation of the ecological pyramid. So these pyramids cannot show the complexity of the food webs. Clear? Means they assume very simple food chain. They do not include the food webs. They also do not include the decomposers. This is also one of the limitation of ecological pyramids. The decomposers, decomposers haven't given any, you can say, space in ecological pyramid. Okay, there is no place for decomposers in ecological pyramids. Although decomposers, they play a very important role in nutrient cycling. They also don't consider species which occupy multiple trophic levels. Now let's discuss some NCERT-based questions. The first question is, which of the following pyramids can never be inverted? Means it will be always upright. So options are pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy, and all of the above. What will be the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. Option number C, pyramid of energy is the correct answer. Now, pyramid of energy can never be inverted because of the energy flow law. Now, the energy flows in only one direction. So it starts from the sun. Okay. Now, the plants, they capture the sunlight. And then plants, they do the photosynthesis, they produce the biomass. And then this energy is being transferred to the, you can say, primary consumers, and then to the secondary consumers, and then to the tertiary consumers. And at each step, you can see energy is lost in the form of heat, or there is a energy loss due to respiration. So around 90% of energy is lost and only 10% of energy is being transferred. Here, that's why the energy of pyramid is always upright. Okay, so only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. Energy decreases progressively at each trophic level. Other pyramids can be inverted. Pyramid of number can be inverted and pyramid of biomass can also be inverted. So pyramid of number can be inverted in the case of parasitic, you can say, food chain. Here, now you can see a single large producer, like a single tree, supports many smaller consumers. Example, small support a tree, a single tree supporting numerous insects or birds. In this case, the pyramid of number will be inverted because the number of individuals will keep on decreasing as you move upwards. Then pyramid of biomass can also be inverted in the case of aquatic ecosystem. Now, in this case, in aquatic ecosystem, the biomass of producer is less compared to the consumer. Okay, producer, which are the phytoplankton in the case of aquatic ecosystem, they have a shorter lifespan. They have a fast turnover rate than the consumer. So their biomass is less compared to the consumer. In the case of aquatic ecosystem, very tiny phytoplankton support large fish. Next one, the base of ecological pyramids always represents, so options are primary consumers, secondary consumers, producers, and decomposers. So what will be the correct answer? Option number C, producers, is the correct answer. The producers, they form the base of the ecological pyramid. So they are the starting point of all life in an ecosystem. They create their own energy, and without them, no other life forms could exist. So that's why producers, they occupy the base of the ecological pyramids, and they are the foundation of all food chain and food webs. Producers such as plants and algae have the unique ability to turn sunlight into food. So this process is known as photosynthesis. Here, the producers, they capture the solar energy and they convert it into chemical energy, or you can say food, through photosynthesis. Now, these producers, they prepare their own food and they support all the other life forms above them. Now, only 10% of energy is transferred between each trophic level, and 90% of energy is lost at each trophic level. Now, having producers at the base ensures maximum energy availability for the ecosystem. Now, as energy is lost at each step, each level of the pyramid gets smaller, indicating less energy is available as you move from the producers towards the top level consumers, which are present at the apex. Next question, a sparrow eating both seeds and insects represents. The options are single trophic level, multiple trophic level, no trophic level, or only primary consumer level. What will be the correct answer? Option number B, multiple trophic level is the correct answer. Let's talk about the sparrow's diet. So when the sparrow eats seeds, it is acting as a primary consumer. Now, seeds come from the plants which are at the base of the food chain. So the flow is plants and then sparrows. Okay, plant, they are the producers. They occupy the first trophic level, and then sparrows, they are eating the plants. So they are occupying the second trophic level here, and they are acting as a primary consumer. Now, if the sparrow is eating insects, then it is acting as a secondary consumer. So you can see here a single species can occupy multiple trophic levels depending on their feeding habit or depending on their diet. So here you can see now what will be the food chain here. Plants, they occupy the first trophic level, and then the insects, they occupy the second trophic level, and then the sparrow, they occupy the third trophic level here, and they become the secondary consumer here. Okay, now let's see why it's multiple trophic level. So the sparrow occupies both second trophic level when eating seeds and the third trophic level when eating the insects. So this makes it an omnivore operating at multiple trophic levels. Now let's discuss some keynotes. So we talked about the pyramids, ecological pyramids. So ecological pyramids are upright, they have a broader base and they have a narrow top, except some cases in biomass pyramids, as well as in the case of pyramid of number also. Okay, so there are certain exceptions where the pyramid of biomass and pyramid of number, they are inverted. Now, the energy pyramid is always upright because only 10% of energy is transferred to the next trophic level and rest is lost as heat. Now, primary producers convert only 1% of the available sunlight into net primary productivity. So this is a fact. Now, as omnivores, which are humans, so humans are omnivores, they do not fit into single trophic level, so they occupy multiple trophic level. A human person eating vegetables, they act as a primary consumer. Yeah, but a person eating meat occupies the third or the fourth trophic level, so it becomes secondary or a tertiary consumer. A marine ecosystem often show inverted biomass pyramid or inverted pyramid of biomass. Now, there are some interesting questions that you have to analyze critically. First question is, if only 1% of sunlight energy is converted to Net primary productivity by producers, calculate how much energy would reach the tertiary consumers in an ecosystem that receives 1000 joules of solar energy. So you can calculate this using 10% law. Next question is, what challenges might arise when calculating ecological pyramids if an organism occupies multiple trophic levels? This is a very interesting question. Third one is, explain how seasonal changes might affect the shape of biomass pyramids in the different ecosystem. Next one is, why is it important to include all organisms at each trophic level when constructing ecological pyramids? And what might happen if we only considered a few species? Okay, so with this, we have completed the theory. Now let's discuss the DPP related to this topic. Let's begin with the first question. Which of the following ecological pyramids always upright? So you have 4 options. You have to select the correct answer from these options. First one is pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy, and inverted pyramid of biomass. What will be the correct answer? Okay, answer is option number C, pyramid of energy. So it is always upright because the energy flows in one direction only, and there is, you can say, a loss of energy at each trophic level. Yeah, so there is maximum energy at the first trophic level, which is occupied by the producers. And then as energy is transferred from the producers to the consumers, there is a loss of energy at each step. Here, that's why the pyramid of its energy will always be upright. Next one, in marine ecosystem, the pyramid of biomass is typically upright, inverted, spindle-shaped, or linear. What will be the correct answer? Answer will be option number B, inverted. So in the case of aquatic ecosystem, the pyramid of biomass is inverted because the biomass of phytoplankton is less as compared to the zooplankton and the other consumers. Okay. So here the producer, they are the phytoplankton. They are tiny plants, okay, which can do photosynthesis. Okay, then after phytoplankton, you have the zooplankton. So the biomass of zooplankton is more as compared to phytoplankton. And then comes the fishes, small fishes. So again, biomass of fish, it is more as compared to the zooplanktons. So the biomass keeps on, you can say, increasing. So biomass is increasing as you are moving from base towards the apex. So that's why you get the inverted pyramid of the biomass. The base, which is the first trophic level, this is occupied by the phytoplankton. Their biomass is very less. As you're moving upward, the biomass is increasing. Next one, if a large tree supports numerous insects which are eaten by small birds, which are then preyed upon by larger birds, the pyramid of number would be upright, inverted, spindle shape, or partially inverted. What will be the correct answer? Okay, option number C will be the correct answer. It is spindle shaped. It will be the correct answer. So here you can see there was one tree that is supporting numerous insects. So number of insects, it is very large. There are very large number of insects. These insects are being eaten by small birds. So number of these small birds are less as compared to these insects. And then again, these small birds are being preyed upon by larger birds. Again, the number of these larger birds will be less. So you will get a spindle-shaped pyramid here. Next one, what is the limitation of ecological pyramids? The options are, they account for food webs. Next is, they include saprophytes. Next one is, they assume simple food chain. And last one, they consider species at multiple trophic levels. What will be the correct answer? Here, option number C is the correct answer. They assume simple food chain. So ecological pyramids, they do not include food webs. They assume simple food chains, which is not realistic actually. In nature, you have interactions. Okay, so there is a network of food chains, which is known as food web. All the organisms, they are dependent on each other. Here, even a single species can occupy multiple trophic levels. Option number C is the correct answer. Next one, which organism can occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem? So options are grass, sparrow, phytoplankton, or snake. What will be the correct answer? Option number C, sparrow. B, sparrow is the correct answer. So sparrow can occupy more than one trophic level. So if the sparrow is eating seeds, then it becomes the primary consumer. If the sparrow is eating insects, then it can become secondary consumer. So you can see the sparrow can occupy multiple trophic levels. Same for humans as well. Basically, omnivores, they can occupy multiple trophic levels. Okay, so with this, we have completed the DPP also. Okay, so this is the end of the session. I hope the session was quite knowledgeable for you. Now we'll meet you in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.